Hey everybody, it's your host Tyler, and welcome to the Tyler Knows Everything podcast. And remember, the nose is crossed out because I always want to learn more. This is my first released episode, and you're going to be on the edge of your seat with the only Division I college quarterback to ever get a life sentence in prison and get out with enough life left to live and tell the tale. Please welcome Damon West.
Tyler
knows
everything.
All right, everybody. Well, we're here with Damon West, the former college quarterback that was sentenced to life in prison and transformed his world. And just to be clear, you are listening to this in 2019. It has not been 65 years. So he is a free man, and we're talking today. And you'll find out through the story that there's a lot of people involved that made this happen where you probably wouldn't be here today. You know, after reading your book and heard the incredible stories about your mom, I was pretty sure that, without your mom, I don't think we'd be talking today.
Oh, no, man, without a doubt, Tyler. Hey, first of all, man, thanks for having me on your show. And, you telling me today that I get to be your debut show, bro, that made my day, man. That made my week. And I've had a pretty good week, so that was really cool, man. I'm totally honored to be on your show and be the debut episode.
I've been planning this podcast for about a year, and I've been recording some guests, and I've told everybody, I said, I don't want to release any episodes until I interview Damon West.
Dude, I'm humbled by that, man. Are you kidding me? That's so wild. Dude, I mean, just to hear that, Tyler, that's, seriously, man, we've been friends for a couple years now, but that blows me away.
Oh, yeah.
I'm humbled, man. I'm honored. Thank you. Well, so my mom, you talked about my mom. Yeah, man, there's no doubt about that. Without my mom, I wouldn't be here. And my dad, too. I mean, so my parents... Look, man, I came from a great home. I tell these guys, I go into prison all the time. Even when I was in prison, I didn't come from a broken home. And my parents in June will have been married for 51 years, 51 years. Most of the people you run into in a prison environment, they don't come from a nuclear family like that. If they're lucky, they have one parent that cares about them. Some of them don't even have that, And substance abuse is a big deal. But man, I had two parents that loved me to death, gave me all the opportunities, love, and support to be anything I wanted to be in life. My mom, spiritually, was the glue that held our family together. They're still alive. And my dad was always there, man, emotionally supported me. I mean, sports, of course, my dad was a sports writer for 50 years in this area, Bob West. But I had a great family, man, great family life. And that helps me out, man. They came to visit me. We'll get into the story, but they came to see me in prison over 150 times.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I first heard about you, I was on social media and I saw a profile picture on your Facebook, and it was a side-by-side. There was a mugshot on one side and then your professional headshot, currently on the right side. And I started reading more about the story, and I was like, I got to meet this guy. I've got to learn more. And I think we eventually met up at invited to your event, I think at the Beaumont Chamber of Commerce.
You did. It's just out of the blue, man, which was cool. I was like, man, that's my style of doing things, man. I totally respected that move.
Yeah, there's lots of interesting people out there, and I do whatever I can to sit down with these people. There's always something I can learn.
Absolutely. Mm. And sometimes you can learn something from people of what not to do. Sometimes some people's purpose in life is to be an example of what not to do. And I tell kids that all the time. Let my life be an example of what not to do. It's some parts of it, but also but man, you can learn something from anybody, Tyler.
That's right.
Everybody's got something to teach you, man.
Yeah, and we're going to find out in a minute how, you learned a lot of stuff from inmates. And so, let's go back to growing up in Port Arthur, Texas, playing football, ended up going to college. And then, actually got a college degree.
Yeah.
Before all this went down.
Oh man! So I had the best life, Tyler. I grew up in Port Arthur, Texas. My dad, of course, said Bob West, a sports writer. My mother, Jeannie West, was a nurse for 30 years. Got an older brother named Brandon, younger brother named Grayson. It's in the 70s in Port Arthur. And Port Arthur, it's a blue collar town, refinery town. It's predominantly African American, and my parents, when a lot of the white families were moving out of Port Arthur to the 70s and 80s, my parents kind of dug in their heels and stayed. They wanted us to go, my brothers and I, to go to integrated schools, and we did, man. And I grew up, being one of the only white kids on the sports teams and stuff like that. I went to Franklin Elementary, Woodrow Junior High, then Edison for my 8th grade year, then Thomas Jefferson High School. But we had we had a good life. Our family was good, close-knit. My mom was one of those moms that had a prayer plaque or a cross in every room in the house. You couldn't escape God in this woman's home, man. It was everywhere. And a lot of people have moms like that. So, but we had our problems too, man. Tyler, 85, I was 9 years old, and I came out and told my parents that my babysitter had been molesting me. And so this is childhood sexual abuse back in the 80s, brother. I mean, they didn't know as much about it back then as they know now, but they loved me. They sent me to counseling, sent me to talk to family priest, and we prayed about it a lot. My mom was still prays about everything she can. And prayer does work. I mean, I'm a firm believer in that. I mean, I think I'm living proof of prayer working. But something inside that little 9-year-old boy went to a really dark place. And by the time I was 10, I started putting in chemicals that changed the way I felt. I got into my dad's beer. I'd go to friends' houses that had liquor cabinets. I'd get in there and start drinking. Doing this all by myself. I'm smoking cigarettes at 10. By the time I'm 12, I'm smoking pot. So I'm into criminal addictive behavior at an early age. But man, I could throw a football, Tyler.
Right.
I could chuck a football, man. God bless me with a lightning bolt for a right arm. And because of my athletic ability, I got a lot of breaks cut to me in life. And I mean, I'm not throwing any blame at anybody that cut me those breaks, but we don't necessarily do anybody any favors when we cut them slack because of something they can do physically like that. You see athletes get special privileges all the time. And it's not a great thing to do. But I got a scholarship. I was a 3-year starting quarterback in high school at Thomas Jefferson High School in Port Arthur. It's not there anymore. It's Memorial High School now. Mm-hmm. But I got a scholarship to play football at North Texas, and so I went to Denton, Texas, 6 hours away from here. And when I got to college, the wheels kind of came off, man. Because here I am, and I'm not in that little protective bubble of Port Arthur, which is a little community in the Golden Triangle down here where we live. And I'm on my own. So one of the first things that leads me is going to church. My mom, growing up in her home, we were at church we're at Mass every Sunday. We're Catholic. We're going to Mass every Sunday. And, excuse me. And so whenever I get to college, I stop going. I was an altar boy growing up, get to college. Man, I go to Mass maybe 5 times in 5 years. Those are holidays. They don't really count, And I had 2 big goals in college. This is going to trip you out. But my big goals in college were this. I wanted to be the starting quarterback for my Division I college football team, and I wanted to party as hard as I could. And brother, I did both really well. So I got into a fraternity. I was a Lambda Chi Alpha, and I was playing football. And by the time I was 20, I was a starting quarterback. It was 1996 football season. I'd been out of high school. This was my redshirt sophomore year. So been out of high school. This is my 3rd year out of high school. I'm 20 years old, starting quarterback. And it lasted all of 3 games for the whole football season. Because on the 3rd game of the year, we had Texas A&M scheduled. And we went and took the field on College Station that Saturday afternoon, September 21st, 1996. And beautiful Saturday afternoon for football, man. And the guy coaching the Texas A&M football team on the other side is a guy named R.C. Slocum, who's now the interim athletic director at A&M as of last week. But R.C.'s a good friend of my dad's from growing up, a good friend of mine, and we know each other well. So it just looks like it's going to be the best day, And here you are. I mean, you're from Texas, Tyler. So, I mean, what little boy growing up doesn't want to either play for A&M or play against those guys?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, so here I am, man. I'm taking the field. And by the 3rd play of the game, my college football career was over. Separated my shoulder, man. Clean hit, too. But when my college football career was over, I came to what I call a fork in the road in life. And these fork in the road are days that life's going to knock you down. And you got to get up and dust yourself off. And you got choices to make at that point because the world looks a little different when you get back up. You get knocked down. And so you got to make a choice. Am I going to go the right way and go make the right choice, go the right way, and make the wrong choice and go the wrong direction? And when I came to that fork in the road in life in college, when football was over, I was mad at the world, mad at God, mad at everybody. So I started putting in the hardcore drugs at that point, cocaine, ecstasy pills. I had a bad belief system going into this, though, Tyler. And the thing about a bad belief system is this. The longer you hold on to a bad belief system, the harder it is to get rid of. My bad belief system from an early age of 12 told me all I'm doing is drinking a little beer, smoking a little pot. I'm not doing anything wrong. What are all these adults upset about, man? I'm not hurting anybody. I'm not even hurting myself. But that's wrong. And there's so many things wrong with that statement right there. But when you have a belief system like that, when you try to change that, bad belief systems usually win out in the end. That's why you see people that have bad habits. They're hard to break because your brain will tell you, no, Damon, that's not the way we do things. We do things like this, man. We drink, we smoke, we do whatever we want to do. And so when I get to that fork in the road, it's not pot anymore. It's cocaine. It's the hard stuff. And somehow, by the grace of God, I graduated college in 1999 with a degree in sociology, and that's when I moved off to Washington, D.C. to get a job working in politics.
Man, I mean, what a journey. I was reading that you kind of went straight from working in Congress to working on a presidential campaign.
Yeah, so I got into political. I worked for a congressman from Houston named Gene Green, and I worked right up until right after the 9/11 attacks. Was there for 9/11 in Congress. Right after that, I go into political fundraising and for a fundraising firm in D.C. And then I moved back to Texas to be a fundraiser for Dick Gephardt, who was running for president at the time in 2004. He was a House member. He was a minority leader in the House from Missouri. Dick was, and so Dick's presidential campaign raised money all over the country for him. He dropped out of the race in January of 04. Is that right after Iowa? He dropped out of the race in January of 04. And so when he dropped out of the race, I was kind of left with a decision to make. Do I try to stick this out and stay in politics and stay in, I was in Austin with Gary Morrow, who was my mentor in politics, and a guy named Ambassador Arthur Schechter, Clinton's ambassador to the Bahamas. And so I decided to move back to the Dallas area to train to be a stockbroker for one of the biggest Wall Street banks in the world, UBS, United Bank of Switzerland.
Right.
And it was at that job as a broker that I was introduced to meth for the first time.
Wow. And it seems like both of those arenas, politics and finance, they have such high pressures that it seems like a lot of people, staffers in those organizations seem to get hooked on addictive things.
Have you been to Washington? How do you know this?
I do dabble in politics a little bit.
Yeah.
Just like you, as a youngster, I kind of have political aspirations. And
do you still?
Well, for now, I'm a state delegate in Hardin County, and I'm currently just helping other people on campaigns.
Yeah.
Because I haven't quite narrowed it down to what I want to do. I would, like the correct or the traditional path is, city government to county government to state to national. I kind of just want to go straight to Congress, man.
Yeah, I mean, and what's traditional anymore? I mean,
Yeah.
You're living in 2019. Look, man, the rules have changed.
They have.
In fact, the rule book's been blown up. I mean, you're seeing stuff now in politics that, even 4 or 5 years ago, you're like, man, that would destroy a political career if someone did something like that. But not anymore. It's
that's
crazy.
True. Yeah.
Yeah.
Back in the early 2000s, just Howard Dean saying, "Why?" That was the craziest thing going on.
Right. That was
it.
And funny, that was Iowa. That was the race where Dick Gephardt lost.
That's right.
He was screaming and hollering. But yeah, politics has changed a lot. And hats off to you, man, for wanting to go there. I tell people all the time that working in Congress, working in politics, and I'm going to get back to your original point about substance abuse, but I think that most people that get into politics get in there for virtuous reasons. They get in there because something moved them so much that they decided they want to be part of the solution. They want to go and be the voice for it. Because we have what's called a representative democracy. We don't have not every single person votes on every single issue. We all go and elect somebody to vote on those issues in a chamber. You're talking about going to the United States House of Representatives or United States Senate. That's our Congress. And so people go into that arena, I think, for virtuous reasons because they have. I break it down to set A ideals and set B ideals. So set A ideals are this, man. Whatever the things you're most passionate about. Let's say that you're a Republican. Let's say you're a Republican. You're passionate about abortion. You're passionate about gun rights. You're passionate about taxes. Let's say that those are 3 things you're passionate about. So you go in there. Those are your set A ideals, and you're not going to do anything. You're not going to sell those ideals off. But I think that what happens is you have set A ideals and set B ideals, and set B ideals are the ones that you can bargain with. Those are the ones that you sell off. The lobbyist can buy a piece of that, for your vote on a bill, because you have to be able to have reciprocity with other members to get your bills through. You're going to have to help them get their bills through. So you'll sell off a little bit of that. Let's say that set B ideals are climate change, stuff you're not as passionate about, environmental stuff. You'll sell off a little bit of that. But the problem, I think, happens in politics, and not just at the national level, but any level, is when you start selling off pieces of the set A ideals. When you sell off the things that passioned you, that blew your hair back, that got you to go and say, I'm going to put my family in a fishbowl, and we're going to go out and endure the heat of politics and the criticism that comes with that. When you start selling off pieces of that, man, you're selling off pieces of your soul. And then you're just there for yourself. And that's when the cycle comes in about, you see politicians in there that look like, well, what are they really there for? Are they really there to represent the people? Or are they really there just to self-promote themselves? And look, man, it costs a lot of money to be in politics.
That's
and
right.
The special interest has such their fingers in the pie of this thing. And, I think the cure for it, Tyler, and I know that's not what we got on this podcast to talk about, but I've never really talked about politics on a podcast. But I think the cure for it is term limits. I think that, you do 6 term limits in the House, you do 2 term limits in the Senate, and you're done, man.
I would agree.
Yeah, you get 12 years in each, and that's it, man. You're done.
And I'll tell you, what got me involved is I found it easy all my life to get along with people of different ideals and try to come to a compromise or a solution. And so when I view issues in politics, I try to look for the common sense solution. And I've always been able to sit down and have rational conversations with people of opposing views and come up with a solution. And I feel that that's where maybe we're headed. When my generation is the oldest members of Congress, I think that there's a more moderate generation kind of in the middle that's younger than us. And that's not something that you see right now, where everybody in Congress currently, is 50, 60, 70. So that's kind of my goal, is just to bridge that gap. And that's how a lot of young politicians start out, and then they get changed along the way. So I'll just try to stay true as long as I can.
Yeah, and look, here's the deal, man. You can do it, because a lot of people do. There's a lot of great, and look, I like politicians from both sides of it. I'm a felon, man. I can't even vote, and I want to talk to everybody's kids. So I don't get political as far as choosing a party or being public about something like that. But as far as the process goes, there's great men and women on both sides, people that haven't sold off their A ideals. And that's the kind of people that you want in charge of the ship, man. You want these people to right the ship that have something that they're passionate about, that means something to them more than just their longevity in office. Yeah. So I think that's great, Tyler. I think so. Getting back though to your original thing, talking about high pressure jobs and working in Congress, working on Wall Street. Yeah, there's a lot of substance abuse that goes on in both those arenas, and mostly in Washington, you see it. It's with alcohol. There's a lot of alcohol abuse, and I was an alcoholic from an early age, and in my life now, I'm in a program of recovery, and I don't speak for Alcoholics Anonymous, but that's the 12-step recovery program that I go to, but they are the ones I go to because that's where I first started out. That's where I first started out my addiction. And Washington, man, it was nightly. It was a nightly thing. You'd go out and we'd have these civil discourses. It would be so funny because all these people that work for different members of Congress, you see your bosses get on the floor of the House and fight each other, literally just verbally dueling every day. They're jousting each other on the floor. And then after the cameras are off and after that's over, and I don't know if it's still like that, but back in 2001, 2000, after the cameras are off, C-SPAN's gone and everybody's gone, these guys are having beers with each other afterwards.
I can see that.
And the staffers, we're out at the bars too, just hanging out. And we can, these are people that have gone and we're working in Congress, and the aides in Congress are the ones writing the legislation. So we're all sitting around hanging out, having a good time, exchanging ideas with each other. And of course we oppose each other, but we have very civil discourse. But I don't know how it is right now in Washington. My brother lives there, and his wife is actually the chief of staff for a congressman. So,
oh wow,
yeah.
But yeah, back to the financial industry. It's high pressured as well, and you were falling asleep at work, and from staying up late and
partying on the weekends. And,
So one of your coworkers gave you something that kind of jolted you and then took hold of your life.
Man, I tell people all the time, the stock market fascinated me, and it still does. They have different ways, different vehicles with which to invest your money, and one of those things that really fascinated me was commodities. And a commodity is like oil, wheat, platinum, gold, silver. You can actually trade. These are tangible things you can actually trade. You can actually buy and trade these things on the market. But I learned about 2 commodities in life that are on the life market. And the first commodity was misery. And misery is the only thing in life I found that is free, Tyler. You can have as much misery as you want. And whenever you're out of misery, you just tell life, you just knock on, hey, life, I'd like to have some more misery. And life will give it to you by the truckload for free, man, free delivery and everything. But the other commodity in life that I learned a lot about was time. And time is antithetical to misery, because time is not infinite, man. You don't, all the money in the world can't buy you one more second of time. And it's the greatest equalizer in the history of the world. So misery and time. So I'm at my desk sleeping that day, and so this guy says, hey, man, you can't sleep on this job, Wes. You get fired. Come on down to the parking garage. I got someone's going to pick you up. And we go down in this car. I think we're going down to do a bunch of cocaine, right? We get down to his car, and he hands me this glass pipe with these crystal rocks in it. And I kind of freak out, Tyler, because, I've never seen this stuff before. And I was like, man, what is that? He said, dude, just relax. It's crystal meth. He said, you'll love this stuff. And Tyler, truer words have never been spoken, man. I fell in love with that drug, man. And tell you how much I fell in love with meth, man. I couldn't get enough. I smoked that drug one time. I was instantly hooked. And I tell kids all the time, everywhere I go, if you don't hear anything I'm saying, man, remember this. Meth is the most evil, most destructive, most addictive drug ever created by man. And it's made in a lab, man. And it's so this drug controlled me. And I went, I gave up my job, my savings account, my car, my home, my tethering to God, whatever's left of that, my sanity, my family. I went from working on Wall Street to living on the streets of Dallas. And it took no time for my demise. And after I'm homeless, I mean, I've slept on park benches before. I mean, I don't have a home. I'm staying in other meth houses with other meth addicts. And we start breaking into cars and we start breaking into storage units to fund our habit. And eventually we start breaking into homes and we start breaking into places in the neighborhood where I lived when I was training to be a stockbroker, when financially I was doing well. And that's called Uptown Dallas. And they called these burglaries the Uptown burglaries.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And, you know, there's so many stories in the book that I kept reading and thinking this is going to be a movie one day. You know, I think Bradley Cooper is going to be playing you pretty soon.
I hear people say that a lot, man. Not about Bradley Cooper, just that it'll be a movie. I don't know, man.
There's a scene in there particular that is like Gone in 60 Seconds where, you know, you and your crew had a stolen vehicle that got
in the police impound.
Impounded.
The police impound.
And then broken out from impound. It was wild.
And so writing the book, so first of all, parole, they have rules in Texas when you have a felony. You can't reach out to your victims and apologize.
Right.
You can't do it on social media. You can't do it through podcasts. So I have to be real careful. I cannot make an apology to my victims. That's another felony. So I don't go down that road. But I acknowledge that my victims, you know, I took something from my victims that I don't know if they'll ever get back, Tyler. I mean, I didn't just steal these people's property. And we stole, there was about a dozen men and women involved in the Uptown burglaries, young and old, male and female, black and white, everything in between, because drugs don't discriminate. Addiction doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care who you are and who your mom and dad are, how much money you got, your socioeconomic status. It doesn't care about that. But we indiscriminately and without reservations broke into the homes of dozens of people in the Uptown neighborhood of Dallas to feed our insatiable meth habit. And so these victims of mine, man, I stole their sense of security. Tyler, I don't know if they ever get that back. They're the most important element to any story when we're talking about criminal justice, because that's why we have a criminal justice system for victims. So they have to live with that for the rest of their lives, and so do I. So I try to make it a point to bring up my victims everywhere I go. And as part of my program of recovery, my 12-step recovery program, the 8th step is to make a list of all the people we had harmed. And the 9th step is to make an amends, make an apology, except when to do so would cause you harm or cause harm to others. And so obviously the 9th step for this is like something that would do me harm. I can't reach out and make any apologies. But for those cases, the 12-step program tells us to go out and do good deeds. We go out and do service work, and we make what's called a living amends. And I try to make a living amends the rest of my life. I figure I'll be doing this forever to get it right, And so I wanted to say that before we talk about the criminal stuff. I want to say that's a big motivator of why I go out and share my story with kids, because I hear from some parents and I hear from some kids how it positively impacts them and turns some people around from a bad course they were on. And there's got to be countless others I don't hear from, but I'll be doing this the rest of my life. This is what I was made for. This is why I think God let me out of prison. So,
I agree, and you're definitely, there's over hundreds of talks that you've given so far,
and 300 in the past 2.5 years.
Yeah, and you know what I did this morning? I Googled your name, and because I read that when you first got out of prison, you were worried what would come up when you Google your name.
It was terrible,
and your dad,
awful,
your dad said, "Don't even look."
He tried to stop me.
When I did it this morning, I saw nothing but positive, and I scrolled down, still positive, and I scrolled all the way to the end. It was all positive, man.
It's crazy, and that's a God thing, man. To be able to turn it around in a couple of years like that out of prison, But that's the kind of stuff, you have social media. I follow you. You follow me. Mm-hmm. I love your stuff because you put positive stuff out there. And you're going to grow in your social media platform. And you understand that your social media platform is a gift, man. That's not a guarantee in life. That's something you're trusted with. And it's incumbent upon us to go out and put positivity out in the world.
Yeah, I really try to display positive energy everywhere I go. That's a big motivating factor. I love Monday morning. I'm ready for the week.
Yeah.
Unlike a lot of people, and that was one of the things I wanted to talk to you about. You know, there's a lot of people out there that I follow, like yourself, that they overcame a big obstacle in their life, and that's a very compelling story that they have to share with people. And I wanted to get your advice for me because I kind of have like the beginning part of your childhood, and I just kind of kept on. You know, I was an only child. My parents were married for the whole time I was together until my mom passed away, and I didn't face a lot of adversity. And so if I were to write a book, it would be about a lot of sunshine and rainbows. And so I kind of find that hard in the space of a motivational speaker or an influencer to try to convey that message of positivity when someone's saying, well, hey, I didn't have the life you had. What's your take on that?
So that's a good question, because I come out to this a lot, especially when I go into prisons and talk, because a lot of the inmates in there are like, hey, look, Wes, we get it, man. Because I can go into prison anywhere in America, and the objections that you would have for a normal person coming into a prison would be, well, that guy doesn't know what it's like to have my kind of time. I've got a life sentence, Tyler. I mean,
right.
So there's not an inmate in America and say this guy, man, that's off the table. I've got street cred immediately. Or he doesn't know what it's like to do time on a real unit. Man, I'll put the Styles unit up against any prison in America. At the time I was there, Styles was wild, man. It was a tough unit, and prison's tough by design. So, but people will say, hey, look, Wes, how are we going to go out and do stuff? You have all these tools. You can speak well. You all these different things going for you. I don't have that going for me, but you do. You have something going for you. You have a story. Everybody's got a story to tell, Tyler. And your story may not be a motivational story about your childhood growing up, and because I've had a wild life. There's no doubt about that. Ups and downs of good stuff. But your motivational story is a guy that starts his own brand. That's not easy to do. Most people wash out. The reason why you don't see a lot of people doing it is because most people wash out of doing it after a year or two because you have to get up every day and you have to tell yourself, you got to look in the mirror and say, if it is to be, it is up to me. That's 10 words, 20 letters of pure power. That's a permission statement. But you have to constantly get up and do that every day for years at a time to build that brand. And that's where I think if you're telling me that it is sunshine and rainbows up till now, and then you want to be able to tell a story and be a motivational speaker, dude, when you build this thing up to be something big, there's your story, man.
That's awesome. I love that quote too, by the way.
Oh, if it is to be, it's up to me. Yeah, I heard that from a motivational speaker that came to speak to our football team in college. It's one of the few things that stuck with me.
Well, let's talk about that final day of the trial.
Oh, man. May 18th, 2009. And I say that date with reverence because that was a day that I'll never forget. When a jury takes your life away from you. But and I was guilty, so rightly so. The evidence was overwhelming against me. The jury was gone for 10 minutes, deliberating on my sentence. I'd been in trial for 6 days at that point. The trial started the Monday before. Now it's the Monday after. 6 days, man, of testimony, victim after victim, witness after witness, and co-conspirator after co-conspirator. I mean, people talk about it in crime, man. All these people roll over on you, and they're right, man. Everybody cuts deals wherever they can, and that's just the way the system works. So, and I'm not complaining about that. Heck, if they'd offered me a deal, I would have probably said anything to keep myself out of prison, but I was the one they wanted, man. So I got nothing. So there I am at trial. Evidence is overwhelming. I'm guilty as can be of organized crime. And we had a burglary crew. We hurt a lot of people by doing what we did. No one was ever physically hurt in the commission of our crimes. But we hurt a lot of people. We made a lot of victims out there. And the jury was gone for 10 minutes. When I came back in, the judge,
that's not good.
No, man, I don't know how much Law and Order you watch, but if a jury's gone for 10 minutes, they smoked you.
They made a quick decision.
It was quick, man. They were ready to go.
And what was even crazier is they sent a question to the judge. And I had to imagine, they said, can we give him life with no parole? And I have to think, like, if I were the judge for a burglary case, I'd be like, no, absolutely. Like, what are you thinking?
When I came back in the courtroom and my second chair counsel, Karen Lambert, told me, it's not going to be good, Damon. And I said, yeah, I'm kind of like thinking, well, yeah, it was quick. I'm sure it's not. She said, they just sent a question in, can they give you life without parole? And my first reaction, that's crazy. That's insane. These are property crimes. No one was even home, and not to minimize what I did. I guarantee you I understand what I did was wrong, especially at that point. But life without parole, and they were mad at me, Tyler. I mean, they were furious because that jury's sitting there looking at a guy over there at the defense table that had every opportunity in life, everything going for him. He could have been anything he wanted. I could have been the governor of Texas, the president of the United States, whatever I wanted to do. And there I was sitting over there, the head of an organized crime ring.
And you made a really good point that the people that are deciding your fate right now didn't have a good enough excuse to get out of jury duty.
That's what this guy told me in county jail. Mr. Jackson was like, man, you're dealing with 12 people that either could not get out of jury duty or did not want to get out of jury duty. I mean, he said, man, they're here for $10 an hour and a sandwich and a parking pass.
Yeah.
You know, and I'd never really considered it until he told me that, you know, but that's the thing. I mean, but that's the way our system of law works. We have a jury and you have a civic duty to serve in that jury. I think he had a more cynical view of it because he had been in the system. You know, he'd been to prison 4 or 5 times. But yeah, you're talking about a jury of your peers, man. They're looking at a guy over there that had everything going in life. And a lot of these people, you know, in life that see a guy that's been not so much pampered is the word, but had every opportunity. Some things given to him just by virtue of who he was or, you know, his race or whatever. I mean, I had a lot of things going for me in life, and the choices I made were terrible. And they let me know it. They let me know it because when that came in, the judge gavelled it in. He said, Damon Joseph West, you're hereby sentenced to 65 years in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. Man, that blew me out of the water, took my breath away, man. And I heard my mom, speaking of breath away, I heard my mom gasp on the front row. The sound only a mother can make when she hears her son get a life sentence in prison. And that's what it is. 60 years and above is considered life in Texas. You know, you hear people get 65 or 85 or 99 or the word life. It all means life. The way parole in Texas looks at it is life is at 60 because you have to be 17 to go to prison, and 60 years on top of that is a natural lifespan of a human being. So when they gave me 65 years, they were giving me 65 years to think you're never getting out.
Right, because you know you were already middle-aged, basically.
Yeah, 33 years old at the time.
Yeah.
60 and 33, man.
So right after that, you know, they whisk you away. There's no time for anything. Did you get some advice on how to survive prison?
So my mom and my dad, they whisked me out of the courtroom, and my mom and my dad, they put me in this little side room, little ante room they've got there for guys to speak to their attorney. You got a bulletproof glass right there. And so they let my parents come in, and we've got like 5 minutes, man. They're going to give us one last visit before I go to prison. And so my mom said, Damon, debts in life demand to be paid. She said, you just got hit with one hell of a bill from the state of Texas, too. She said, but you did the things they said you did in that trial, Damon. I know you did it, so you got to go pay that price. You owe the state of Texas that time, your victims. She said, but you owe a debt to your father and I. She said, we gave you all the love and opportunity and support to be anything you wanted to be in this life, and this is how you repaid us. She said, I don't think this is going to work, Damon. She said, here's the deal. When you go to prison, you're not going to get to one of these white hate groups, one of these Aryan Brotherhood type gangs, because you're the minority in there. And my mom watches all these prison shows on TV, so she's like, look, you're not going in there, you're not getting one of these gangs, you're not getting any tattoos on you. She said, no tattoos, no gangs. Do you understand this debt you're going to pay? And so I told my mom I did, but Tyler, I didn't have any clue what I just promised my parents. You know, I'm sitting in there, you know, in shock that I just got a life sentence, and they're telling me you got to pay this debt. So I'm like, yeah, I get it, I understand. But when I got back to the pod in county jail, I started asking all these guys that had been to prison before, you know, how am I going to survive this life sentence in prison? And every man, white, black, Asian, Hispanic, is telling me the same thing, man. You're going to have to get into a gang. You know, you can't do this on your own, Wes. You're 33 years old. You're gang recruiting age, man. Get into a gang. But there was this old black guy named Jackson, and I called him Mr. Jackson out of respect. And Mr. Jackson was a real positive guy. He'd come and check on me all the time, seeing how I'm doing. And so he pulled me aside one morning. He's like, hey, Wes, I've been watching how you're dealing with these knuckleheads, these dummies, talking about how you're going to survive prison. And Jackson's been to prison 4 or 5 times, man. He's in his 60s. He's a seasoned convict. He said, how do you like the advice you're getting? You know, how do you feel about that? And I told him, man, I was telling him, man, I'm scared to death. I don't think it's going to work out well for me. He said, don't listen to him. He said, you don't have to get into a gang. He said, not everybody goes and gets into a gang. He said, but you're going to and these guys have been telling me this, you're going to the worst part of the Texas prison system because of my time, because of my life sentence. I'm going to go to a part of the prison system where everybody on my building has a life sentence, you know? So that is my fate. And I won't come off the building for 5 years, he said. So he said, what you need to understand about prison is all about race. He said, race runs the institution. He said, it's the most disgusting place you'll ever see in your life. This is a black guy telling me this. You know, he said, it's the most disgusting thing. He said, when you walk into prison, you're going to see a TV set. And in front of the TV set, you're going to see rows of benches. He said that first row is for the blacks. We got all the numbers in prison. There are numbers on our side, unfortunately, because it's prison. He said, so don't sit in that first row. You get your head smashed in. He said the second row is for the Hispanics. He said, don't sit on that row either. You get your head smashed in. You sit on that row. He said, for the third row of benches for the whites. He said, if there's a third row, that's where y'all sit. If there's no third row of benches, y'all sit on the floor. That's the way it works. He said, so don't get into a wreck over race. He said, so being that everything's about race, he said, when you walk in there, the white gangs get the first dibs on you, man. The Aryan Brotherhood, the Aryan Circle, the White Knights, the Woods. He's naming all these white prison gangs off. He said, you got to fight them all, man. You got to fight them all. And if you survive their onslaught, and if you survive, their onslaught of hate, and you don't give in to their ideology of hate out of fear, he said, then you're going to fight the black gangs because they're going to send the black gangs after you. And he said, the Crips, the Bloods, the Gangster Disciples, Mandingo Warriors, he said, you're fighting them all. And, Tyler, this part that he's telling me about, it scares me to death to think about this because you're talking about going to a place. I'm not a good fighter. I've never been a fighter, and I've got to go in there. He's telling me about these physical tests that I'm going to have to go through. And it usually breaks people. And he's telling me that. It usually breaks people down. A lot of people don't make it to the point where they get past that. He said, but if you get past that, you will earn the right to walk alone. He said, the strongest man in prison always walks alone. And then he gave me this analogy. And this analogy I take with me everywhere I go because this is the most important thing that I'm going to take with me into prison. He said, imagine prison is like a pot of boiling water. He said, and prison's hot. He said, so anything we put in that pot of boiling water is going to be changed by the heat and the pressure inside that pot. He said, I'm going to put 3 things in that pot of boiling water and watch how they change. A carrot, an egg, and a coffee bean. He said, so first things first. He said, if I put a carrot into a pot of boiling water, he said, what happens when you boil the carrot? I said, Mr. Jackson, it turns soft. He said, that's right. The carrot goes into prison hard, but it didn't take long for that water to change that carrot, man. It made him soft and mushy. He said the carrot got beat, the carrot got robbed, the carrot may have gotten raped, and the carrot may have gotten killed. He said, you do not want to be the carrot. He said, let's put an egg in that pot of boiling water we call prison and watch how that changes. He said, what happens to the egg? I said, well, you boil an egg, it's a hard-boiled egg. He said, that's right, man. He said the egg had the hard outer shell that protected it. Unlike the carrot didn't have a shell. So physically, the egg is going to be fine, but internally, the egg turned hard too. His heart got hardened. He said, if your heart gets hard and you become the egg, you are incapable of giving or receiving love. He said, and no human being can live a normal life without being able to give or receive love. He said, if you become the egg, you're institutionalized, stay in prison the rest of your life because you're going to keep going back and you will not come back as someone your parents recognize. Because I had told him, my mom told me that you come back as the man we raised or don't you come back at all. So he said, but Wes, what about that coffee bean? He said, what happens when I put a coffee bean in boiling water? And Tyler, I didn't know the answers to it, man. And so he said, for a college boy, you're not too smart, Wes. He said, if you put a coffee bean into a pot of boiling water, he said, now you got to change the name of the water to coffee. He said the coffee bean, the smallest of these 3 things, had the power to change the entire atmosphere inside that pot. He said, if you were going to survive prison, you have to be like that coffee bean, man. You got to change the atmosphere around you. He said, everybody in life puts out energy, negative or positive. Whatever kind of energy you put out, you get back. He said, if you walk around with a frown on your face and a scowl all the time, you're going to attract that same kind of inmate. That could be very dangerous in there. He said, but Wes, if you walk around with a smile on your face and you let these dudes know they're not getting to you, he said, you'll change that prison from the inside out. He said, the best part about it is because of your energy, the other coffee beans will find you. And that's how you're going to survive prison. You be part of the coffee bean gang.
Wow. Man.
Yeah. It was great, man. It was, and it made me feel like it's going to be okay, Tyler, in some sick and twisted way because I'm scared to death. It's going to be the biggest trial of my life, the biggest, the hardest hardships I've ever gone through. I mean, it's like going to the edge of the earth, man. But I knew it was going to be okay. Right.
Yeah, because before you walked alone, you did have to go through all the fights that he mentioned.
All of them, man. And you know what's crazy, too? So, you saw the other day, this is going to be released on June 1st, but here we are in late April. They just executed the last guy that was responsible for the dragging death of James Byrd Jr.
Right.
That case, CNN and other news outlets were doing stories about that. And one of them, I think it was CNN's website, was talking about why this guy was so full of hatred in his Aryan Brotherhood ways and his white supremacist stuff. And they were talking about he had been to prison in 95 or whatever. I think James Byrd Jr. was killed in 98, 99, sometime around then. And so, but this guy had been to prison before on a burglary charge. And when he got to prison, the whites made sure that he wouldn't go with the white gangs. Same thing Jackson's telling me about, man. This guy wouldn't go with the white gangs, and so the white gangs got the black gangs to repeatedly rape him.
Wow.
And basically, he had to come to the white gangs for protection. That's what he thought. He thought he had to go to them. They were going to be his saviors, and having no clue that they turned the black gangs on him, man. And that's how they work in prison. It's a sick and twisted way. But from then on, he had such a hatred in his heart for other races because of that event right there that was caused by some people of his own race.
Yeah.
And that's how they turned him, man. And the guy went on to decapitate somebody in one of the most brutal murders ever.
Yeah, that's right.
But that's prison. That's prison. Prison is a dangerous environment. It is, it is rock and roll. It's one of those places, Jackson said, man, you got to see without seeing and hear without hearing. You can't get in anybody else's business. You got to mind your own, but you got to be wide awake. He said, always keep your head down, your eyes open, and your mouth shut.
Yeah, I think you even mentioned that you talked to soldiers who said they would rather be on the front lines of battle in a war than in prison.
Every veteran I talked to in prison, there's a lot of veterans, unfortunately, in our prison system. And the Styles Unit has the biggest group. It's called Veterans Incarcerated Group, and it's an organized group of veterans, and veterans from the outside come in. And share time. There is some veterans out from your area. You're in Lumberton, right?
That's right.
Yes. Sandra Womack is. Yeah. You know Sandra?
So she's the executive director for the Lumberton Chamber of Commerce.
Yes.
And so I serve on the board of directors with her, and she loves veterans.
My God, dude, she is
always doing something volunteering for veterans.
Tyler, she came into prison, and I volunteered. I wasn't a veteran. I wasn't in the armed forces, right. But I volunteered to help them out with their DD-214 paperwork, whatever they want to do, sick calls, whatever. Because I had a mind, so I would use my mind to different advantages in there, and so I would go and help out. And so Sandra would come in there and with the other veterans, VIG 292 is the Veterans of Course, the Vietnam Veterans of America, VVA 292, I think is what she's part of in Beaumont, this area. But she loves veterans, man. And they would come in and they would take care of these veterans in prison. They have a big dinner for them every year. About 150 guys would be part of the Veterans Incarcerated Group. But every man that I talked to in prison that was a veteran and had been to war said, every one of them was like, give me a gun, put me on the front line of any battlefield in the world is way better than this stuff.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's unfortunate.
Prison's tough.
Yeah. And I grew up, you grew up playing, football and other sports. I grew up playing basketball. My dad's he was my high school basketball coach. He played college ball at McNeese.
Oh, cool.
And so when you talked about the basketball story, I thought that was really cool. It almost reminded me of The Longest Yard, the movie.
I've heard that reference. I finally saw The Longest Yard.
Yeah. And it was kind of the same thing. You took that coffee bean analogy to a whole nother level. Playing basketball with the black prisoners.
Yeah, well, see, look, here's the deal, man. I'm about 6 weeks into this. I'm about 6 weeks into prison, and the white gangs lasted a couple weeks. And I tell people all the time, I've probably gotten 3 dozen fights, 3 dozen fights in prison, man, somewhere in there, and county jail and prison combined, probably 3 dozen. And I lost 75% of those fights, physically lost, But Jackson told me. He said, you don't have to win all your fights, but you do have to fight all your fights. He said, don't ever turn down a fight in there. And that's kind of a lesson in life.
That's exactly
what we were talking about a while ago. With you building your own brand, you get up every day, man, tell yourself if it is to be, it's up to me. You're getting up and fighting the fight every day.
Yeah, in business, you're not going to win every deal, but you got to fight for every deal.
Yeah. I mean, you've got to get up because the other guys are going to fight. The other men and women that you're against, your competition to build their brands to, they're going to be getting up every day doing this. You got to get up. But so Jackson's telling me that. And so I get into this situation in prison. I'm about 6 weeks into it. I'm fighting the black gangs at this point, and sometimes more than one at a time. And I'm so terrified in there, Tyler. Like I said, I'm not a fighter, man. But you can become anything you have to become. And I tell people all the time, you'd be surprised at how much you're capable of when your back's against the wall. When you're resisting becoming that carrot or resisting becoming that egg. Because it's a fine line to walk, whichever one you're going to become. To be positive and stay positive in that kind of environment. Jackson didn't say it was going to be easy, but I don't remember, how hard he said it was going to be, but it was hard. It was extremely hard.
Oh, yeah. And, you're a couple months in, and these guys have been in there for years with nothing but time to work out.
And I saw some of the biggest, baddest guys in the joint, man. These guys could play pro football, pro basketball, and all they do is work out all day physically, So I get up one morning, it was Monday morning, about 6 weeks into this, and I look in the mirror, and I say that sentence that I talked to you about a while ago. If it is to be, it's up to me. And a mirror in prison isn't a piece of glass like a normal mirror, like you're thinking. It's a piece of steel that's kind of polished, and everything is bolted down in prison. So I look in that dingy old mirror, and I don't like the guy I see, man, because the guy I see is terrified. The guy I see is, man, he's been beat down. I'm tired of fighting, Tyler. You get used to fighting in there, but every time they'd roll those doors, the cell doors for chow, to go to chow, or go to the day room, to go to the rec yard, I got so terrified of hearing someone say, "Hey, West, I want to look at you in the shower." Someone says, "I want to look at you in the shower in prison." There's nothing gay about that. You're going to box, man, because you can fight in the showers. There's no cameras back there. The guards don't go back there, and you can clean blood out of the shower really easily.
Yeah, it's the scariest environment imaginable.
Oh, man. So you walk out of the cell, someone says, "I want to look at you in the shower." Like, man, again, all I want to do was go to eat. Now instead of eating, I got to go fight first, and then I can go eat after that if I get cleaned up enough. If I'm too bloody, I can't go to the chow hall because the guys in prison won't let you go. If you're banged up like that, it's got a weird system in prison. So if you get beat up really bad, you got black eyes and busted, they don't want you walking around the unit because you'll they call it drawing heat, man. You'll bring the authorities that way because, if you put it in the face of the guards and they see that something's wrong, they might do something, But if they're not seeing what's going on, then usually it can go, to where it's tolerated at least. But you can't let a guy walk around with two black eyes and a busted lip because then everybody knows there's fighting going on in that pod and somebody's got to do something about it because people are physically showing signs of being hurt. So there were guys that would get in fights, and I never got banged up so bad I couldn't go leave my cell, but they would lock them in their cells literally for 4 or 5 days till they would heal up.
Wow.
And all the guys in the pod would chip in for meals. And they'd pass the hat. The guy would come around and say, "All right, man, we got to feed him breakfast now." So if somebody would go around and get food to give this guy a meal, and then it's all right, now it's lunch feeding. So everybody's got to throw in some food for this guy's lunch just because we can't let him go to the chow hall because the whole pod will get locked down.
It's like an experiment.
It's like living in a giant petri dish, man. It's crazy. It's like, but in every pod has their own personality, because every pod is controlled by different groups. Sometimes, different groups. There's a whole criminal underworld in there. They're running dope. They're running cigarettes. They're running booze. They're making wine in there.
Yeah, I thought that was crazy how they had phones in there.
Oh, when I got to prison, everybody had a phone. And I didn't have a phone, but I mean, a lot of prisoners had phones.
And you're in there with guys that are doing life, so some of them don't even care.
No, man, they don't care. I'm in one pod. I live on G pod 1 section at one time. There's 48 of us in a pod. 12 of the guys in my pod have life without parole. Life without parole, Tyler, these guys are never going home. They don't even get a chance to see a parole officer. And a lot of them in their early 20s or in their late teens.
Yeah.
Which means they're going to be there for 60 calendar years before they're old enough to die or something. And they're going to keep you alive in prison. You got free health care.
And they're going to do whatever they got to do to entertain themselves. And
I talked to a lot of these guys, and I'd be like, "Man, hey, look, man, why didn't you just let them give you the death penalty? What was up with that?" And a lot of them were like, "Oh, my mom didn't want me to get the death penalty." I'm like, "Dude, you're crazy, man. Your mom's going to die one day, but you're not. They're going to keep you alive. You're like an experiment now. They're going to keep you alive and pump, medicine in you to keep you alive because they have to. You're a ward of the state." And what was scary, though, Tyler, is a lot of those guys would say, "That's all right, man. When I get tired of doing time, I'm just going to kill a guard. Or I'll just kill another inmate."
Wow.
My response to that was kill yourself, Well, don't take anyone else out. If you can't do this and you got to figure out a way out of it, don't take anyone else out, man. Kill yourself.
Yeah. And after you were able to earn the respect of the guys on the basketball court, it didn't sit well with some other people in there.
Oh, yeah, but I got to tell you the basketball story. So, man, I go out to the basketball court that Monday, and so, prison is all about race. Jackson was right. So, in the rec yard on the life sentence building is one of the most racially charged places I've ever seen. It's segregated, man. So, you go in through the rec yard, you strip down when you come in. That's the door. We'll call that door home plate. So let's say you're at right center field of the rec yard. You got a sand volleyball court. There's only whites and Hispanics are allowed to play out there. No blacks are allowed on the sand volleyball court. You go around left center field. They've got these really high walls, 30, 40-foot walls. Those are your handball courts. And all the races can play handball. But if you want to double up and play partners, your partner's got to got to be the same race as you. You can't mix races. Right. And so you come down the third baseline, and they have a weight stack there, a universal weight machine. If you want to lift weights, that's cool. All the races can lift weights. But if your partner that you want someone to spot you, whatever, he better look like you, man. He's got to be the same color as you. So, but I skip all of that Monday morning. I go straight to the basketball court, which is about at second base, And the blacks are on the basketball court, brother. And they run it. They got some great games. Like I said, they got some guys out there that can play in the NBA. They're so good, But look, man, I've been an athlete all my life. And I'm from Port Arthur. I've been the only white guy playing basketball before on the west side of Port Arthur. And I'm looking at these guys. I'm thinking to myself, I'm better than that chump. But I got to get in the game, man. So I got to get the ball in my hands. But they have a flaw in their system. I've been watching them. After every game, they're going to shoot for team captains, which means the first two guys to make shots get to be team captains.
Just like the playground.
Like the playground, man. So I go out there and I'm watching this game, and I can see Okay, sorry, I thought I disconnected myself. Yeah, so I could see where the game was going to end. So I got on that side of the court where the game was a very lopsided game. And as soon as the last ball went through the last basket, man, on that last point, I went and fell in the basketball like a fumble drill in football. When I came up, I mean, the entire basketball court, it sucked up. They're all around me, man. It's just a sea of angry black faces. And they're screaming at me, man. Hey, white boy, man, what the hell's wrong with you, man? Give us our ball back. And, man, the toughest voice I could find, Tyler, I'm like, man, I'm gonna play basketball today, man. You're just gonna have to hurt me. Whatever y'all gonna do, because I'm playing basketball. I'm shooting for teams.
Oh,
man, these guys are incredulous, man. They're like, what, man? We're gonna kill you, white boy, man. You have crossed the line. You've gone too far. They're spitting on me and screaming at me. The biggest guy out there, man, this Blood from Houston named Jay Blood, man. Mm-hmm. Jay Blood gets up in my face, and I think he's gonna hit me, Tyler, but he's not getting this ball. He's gonna get a free shot at me, you know. He gets in my face, starts pointing at me. He says, you know what, white boy, get on the line and shoot that shot. Boy, I hope you make it. And so it's almost like parting the Red Sea, man. They part ways off that court, and there's a free throw line. So I get up out there, and I'm thinking to myself, Damon.
How long has it been since you shot a basketball?
Been a long time, buddy. And I'm thinking, Damon, this is the dumbest thing you've ever done in your life, man. Because here's the deal. If I miss the shot, they're going to kill me, man. Because I didn't just disrespect the basketball court. I disrespect the entire race. And I don't have a gang. I'm on an island, man. And all the white guys are laughing, kill him, man, get him, man, kill him. You know? So, man, I still get up there, I steal my nerve, and I breathe out, and I think in my head, if it is to be, it's up to me, man. And I let that ball rip, and it goes right through the net, man.
Whoa.
Made my shot.
Nothing but net.
Nothing but net, man. Jay Boyd gets up, he makes his shot. We pick our teams. I pick 4, he picks 4. We got a 5-on-5 game, right? Man, it's wrong. It's 9-on-1, dude.
Oh,
these guys don't want me on their basketball court. And I knew that they would honor it. If I could make the shot, I knew they'd honor it because you have to, you know, your word's your bond in there. Or that's what they say. But so, man, we're out there, and it's the most brutal game of basketball I've ever played in my life. And this is basketball in a life sentence built on a maximum security prison in Texas. Man, first of all, there's no guard out there. There's no referee. There's no foul. There's no such thing as a foul in this basketball. You could punch, kick, scratch. Yeah. Man, I remember I was taking off down the court, running on the court, and some guy just kicked my legs out from under me. I went skidding down the court. I came out this first day with a black eye and a busted lip, man, and I'm all banged up on the rest of my body, but I survived. Came back out on Tuesday. Same thing, man. I go out there and
another day of basketball.
Another day of basketball, man. I walk out there and these guys are laughing at me, man, because I look like I've been hit by a truck, you know.
Yeah.
Man, hey, white boy, we thought you had enough yesterday. I'm like, hey, man, I thought you boys were playing basketball. What's up? Whew. And Jay Blood said, you know what, guys, we're not even shooting for teams. I got him, and he's on my team now. And so if I was looking for basketball, I found basketball because every game, man, I was the first picked. And I've never been first picked in basketball, man, my whole life. I'm not that good, but they're picking me first. Everybody wants to get a piece of me, man, and they do. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, man. Here I am 6 days into this experiment. I'm thinking, man, this is not working out well. And I'm on the basketball court, and I'm standing about half court because I don't even play offense. I mean, they don't even pass me the ball. I can't even touch the basketball. They're not even letting me shoot. I play defense all I want. So my team's on offense under the goal, shooting the ball, and I'm at half court just waiting for them to come, and the basketball comes my way. I'm like, whew, man. And I hadn't shot the ball since Monday, man, when I shot that shot to make teams, right?
Yeah.
So I get up, I dribble, and I shoot, and I miss. I'm like, man, I hope I get another chance. And a little bit later, they passed the ball again, and I made my shot. And I heard somebody say it, Tyler. I heard him say, good shot, West.
Wow.
West, man. And that's when I knew something happened. Because
that was the first time they said your name.
I got my name back, man. They weren't calling me white boy anymore. It's very derogatory to call someone by the color of their skin, man. And a lot of blacks that hear this podcast know exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, they go through this their whole lives, you know. But to call someone by the color of their skin is very derogatory, man. But they gave me my name back. And after that game was over, the guys circled up around me like they did about 6 days before, but it was a little different body language, a lot different body language, a lot different conversation. And Jay Blood said, man, Wes, you pulled something off out here we had never seen a white boy pull off before, man. You took everything we had and you gave it back when you could, man. You earned our respect. He said, you never got racial with us, never said a cross word. He said, man, you don't have to worry about the blacks the rest of the time you're in prison, man. And the first thing I thought about was Mr. Jackson and that coffee bean thing. I mean, because here's the thing, Tyler. You can't just think about how difficult it was for me to be the only white guy out there. Think about how difficult it was for them to accept me, man. Here I am on their basketball court. Man, they got 20 years of a bad belief system that says white guys can't be out here. But in 6 days, everybody made a change. 6 days, everybody became coffee beans.
Yeah, and the crazy part to me is, you didn't give up after day 3, after day 4. I just don't know how.
I didn't think I could. Yeah. I didn't think there was a choice. I mean, I think to give up, they would have devoured me. That would have been like that fight. When Jackson said you don't have to win all your fights, you got to fight them all. I put myself into a situation where this is going to have to go on just infinitely. I mean, there was just no way out of it until they got tired.
I try to be really mentally tough when it comes to like my fitness or, diet and exercise or, career time management. But I think what's your opinion on your mental toughness that you've undergone? Obviously free life is a lot easier than it is in there. And it seems like if you get into a difficult situation in the free world, do you think back at some of those times and say, well, I went through this.
Absolutely, man. And that's called your life perspective. And life, God has given me a ton of perspective in life. My perspective is this, man. My worst day out here in the free world is better than my best day in prison.
Exactly.
I've had some good times in prison when they weren't all bad, family coming in to see you or whatever, and I've had some bad days out here, but the bad days out here don't even compare to the best day in there.
Yeah, if somebody cuts you off on the freeway or
man.
Flips you the bird,
and say, man, look, I'm a human being. I've got to have a program of recovery in this thing because I've got to remind myself. I got to tap into humility. I've got to be humble, man. As long as I stay humble, and like with the stuff going on in my life, all the places I get to go, the book, the speaking stuff. As long as I remember that it's not about me, it never is about me, and never will be about me, I'm going to be fine. But if I lose my humility, I'd probably end up back at the Styles unit again.
Yeah.
Not as a visitor either. Right.
And, one thing I wanted to mention that we skipped over was along with that harsh sentence that they gave you, when they initially took you in, they sent the SWAT team after you.
Oh, man. Yeah. So you talk about it when I was arrested?
Yeah, in the apartment.
Yes, yeah. So July 30th, 2008, man, I'm sitting around that little rundown apartment in Dallas where I live, and I've got my meth dealer sitting next to me, this guy named Tex, and Tex is sitting there, and I'm sitting there smoking meth with him, and I'm telling Tex, man, I think the end is near. I think the cops are going to come get me. And I tell him, man, 10 days before that, this guy had been doing all the burglars with Dustin. He knew who Dustin was. Dustin had been picked up by the Dallas Police Department, so I knew it was just a matter of time before they get to me. And just as I pass the pipe back to Tex, I hear a window shatter off to my right. And tumbling across my living room floor, it's this little canister going end over end, and it starts to register what's going on in my mind. And this is a SWAT team thing, man. So I get up off the couch, and I get over this canister, and bam, blows up right in my face, man. A bright white light, loud noise, blew me back on the couch. And when I came to, when I can see and hear again, this cop in full SWAT riot gear has got his boot on my chest, and the barrel of a machine gun is digging in my eye socket. I could feel the barrel up against my eyeball. It's cold. And this cop is screaming, don't move, man. And I look up at the guy, and I blink, and I'm like, man, don't worry. Don't worry. His finger's right above the trigger, man.
Yeah.
Scariest thing in the world. And one of the cops is coming in my this little old apartment I'm living in, screams out, we got him. We got the Uptown burglar. And that's how they took me down on July 30th, 2008. We talked about my sentencing date, May 18th, 2009. So it was about 10 months after I got arrested, I went to trial. And, May 18th, 2009 is a day I'll never forget. But let me tell you about May 17th, 2019.
Yeah.
Which is 10 years to the day of this thing.
And I heard about this. I can't wait for it.
Man, I will graduate from Lamar University with a master's in criminal justice. All right. I've gone from one side of the criminal justice system to the next. And I get to give the student commencement speech at my own graduation to the entire university.
That's amazing.
That's a God thing, man. That's crazy, man, to travel that far through the criminal justice system.
Yeah. By the time this is released on June 1st, you're going to be Damon West, Masters
in criminal justice.
That's right.
That's wild. And hopefully I can be a professional one. I'd love to teach. I think I bring a unique skill set to criminal justice. And in the classes I'm in, the professors I'm in feel the same thing. They're like, man, this is, you can't teach this stuff. You were in there, and you can articulate what you saw and what you heard. So,
and so after you went through all the fights, you finally were able to walk alone, and you were able to start working on yourself.
Yes, and that was a big thing. But this is a mindset change, Tyler, and you get this because you have a mindset that tells you, you know what, no matter what kind of day I'm having, no matter what kind of problems I've had to face, tomorrow's a new day. Got to get up, got to keep going, got to stay positive. So I had to stop looking at prison as a punishment, because if you're living in an environment like that and you're thinking, man, this is a punishment, as you're already starting off on a negative. So I had to change my mindset, and I had to quit looking at prison as a punishment, and I had to view prison as my opportunity. Yeah,
I've heard you say that that SWAT team that busted in didn't capture you, they rescued you.
Oh, yeah. There's no doubt about that. I think, I wasn't going to leave the Uptown burglaries alive.
No, I mean, we definitely wouldn't be talking today if you hadn't gotten caught. Yeah.
Not at all.
I don't even know if you'd be alive by now.
Oh, no. 11 years ago? No, there's no way I'd be alive. I don't think so. And what would my life be worth at that point? I mean, I'd, be toothless, skin and bones, in and out of the system. And like the big sentence I got, Tyler, I mean, I think that all of it happened for a reason. You know, I got 65 years for my first felony conviction. And I'm not saying what I did wasn't bad or wasn't wrong, because it was, and I deserved to go to prison. But you see people all the time get a lot less time for a lot more serious crimes.
Oh, sure.
And I see it too, and I'm like, it just make me scratch my head. I'm like, wow, it's
especially nonviolent.
right,
Yeah.
nonviolent. I mean, and that's the reason why I was able to make parole at some point, because, you know, I didn't hurt anybody physically. You know, I went out of my way to make sure people weren't home. You know, it doesn't make me a good guy for doing that. I'm not virtuous for doing that. If you read my book, The Change Agent, you'll see that I'm not in there talking about Damon's a great guy. I'm pretty hard on myself.
Yeah, you admit to everything for sure.
Yeah, because I mean, look, I mean, there's no way around that. I did these things. I was a bad guy.
Yeah, and you're humble about it too. I remember the first time that we sat down at that table. It was a group full of people from my company, and I gave backstory. I was like, "You got to hear his story. It's incredible." But you know, you introduce yourself, Damon West, and you told him right away, you know, about your past. And I'm like, wow, he just comes right out and says it.
And you'll read my book, and you'll read the reason why I did that when I first got out of prison, and for the first couple of years, is, man, I was. You know, it's kind of a defense mechanism. It's like, if I get to it first, you can't use it against me, and it's me not being comfortable in my own skin. No longer do I do that. You know, I've got this girlfriend now. Her name's Kendall Romero, and her family has taken me in as if I was one of theirs. You know, and they love me, and she loves me, and she's got this daughter named Clara that loves me, and I love her too. And so where I am in life now is light years away from where I was just a year ago, you know, before Kendall. And so I don't ever go around, you know, introducing myself as Damon West. You know, I was in prison. Yeah. You know, I'm Damon West, I'm just a normal guy.
Right.
You know, I've got a family. Yeah. And so that, it's kind of like knowing how when the book was when it was time to wrap the book up and submit it to the publisher, I had to know that I came full circle in life, that I had been able to get out of prison, become useful again to society, and found love, and found the exact opposite of what prison was, which was hate and negativity and darkness. But I found the light. And once I found the light, it was time to wrap the book up and submit it. But turning my life around, here's what happened in prison. So I had to get up every day and work out. And I'm not just talking about physically. We talked about these guys. I could see around me how to work out physically. Everybody in there is, you know, that's working out is in great shape. You know, there's a lot of guys that don't work out, but they're only in shape physically, Tyler. They're not working on their minds. They're not working on their souls.
Right.
So I said, you know what? I can look at these examples of what not to do around me. And an example of what not to do is to work out one-dimensionally. I get to work out three-dimensionally. Or to work out on my spiritually, mentally, and physically on myself every single day. So every single day I'd have to get up in that negative environment and say, hey, this is going to be the best day ever, you know, and get up and feed myself the right stuff, because you are what you eat, Tyler. You're into fitness. You're into staying in shape. You know that you've got to put the right fuel in to get the right performance out.
Right. Yeah.
And that's not just about physically though. That's a mentally, man. What kind of books do you read? What kind of websites do you go to? What kind of videos do you watch? Or what do you put in? Because that's what you're going to look
garbage
like.
in, garbage out.
Garbage in, garbage out. Same thing mentally. Spiritually, the same thing. You know, do you tap into something spiritually every day, every week, every month, every year? Do you tap into something? Man, if you don't, you should really consider it. It's a big universe out there. You know, I tell people that all the time. It's a big universe to be alone. You know, so. But spiritually, mentally, physically, I had to get up every day and work out. And I did. And once I did that, I got outside of myself, because that's where I've been living on. I've been the most selfish person in the world, because addicts were selfish. And I call myself we because I'm an addict. Oh, I'm always going to be an addict. Today, I have a program of recovery. And that's why you're able to sit across from me like this and talk to me, because I have a program of recovery today. Today, I can be useful. Right. When I'm in my addiction, I'm useless. And I learned a lot of that when I was in prison. And I got into recovery in prison. And the two guys that brought in the recovery meetings in prison, I call them Ray and Matt in my book. These two guys belong to a local group, a local home group out here in Beaumont. And I would tell them all the time when I would go to my meetings. Every Wednesday morning in Styles, they had a meeting, a recovery meeting at 7:30 in the morning. It's volunteer-based. And so I'd tell them all the time, hey, man, when I get out of here one day, I'm going to come join y'all's home group. And they'd laugh at me, man, because, I mean, they get lied to more than police, man. Yeah. These guys are bringing a recovery meeting into a prison, man. They hear everything. But I turned it around in there, and I turned it around. I learned about the 4 things you control in life. You know, there's only 4 things that I get to control. And all my life, I thought I was the wizard behind the curtain, pulling levers, pushing buttons. And in reality, man, the only 4 things I control are between my ears. There are 4 things are what you think, what you say, what you feel, and what you do. And outside of that, you don't control anything. I mean, you don't have any control over what goes on around you. And a lot of this stuff is the coffee bean stuff, applying that to life. You start off with your body language, Tyler, because it starts off, your body language is going to speak before you ever open your mouth. Every room you enter, man, people are going to be looking at you, and people read body language, whether or not they know they're reading it. So it all starts off with a smile, man. And that's what Jackson was talking about. So I, made sure I smiled everywhere I went, no matter how bad it was or how much pain I'm in or how much turmoil I'm going on underneath. Smile, man. Just smile, Damon. Just get up and smile. And so, yeah, there were several lessons. I learned what the secret to life was in prison. The secret to life is real simple. And I learned it from a lot of these guys that come into the ACTS program, the ACTS guys, the Kairos guys, these guys that would come in for 4 days for these retreats. And they'd come in, they'd leave their wives, their families, their jobs, their careers behind for 4 days and spend 4 days in prison with us inmates,
Wow.
And nobody wants to be with inmates, our families, that's it. I mean,
and so they're staying there all day?
All day, man. They leave at like 9 o'clock. They come in at like 5 in the morning, leave 9 o'clock at night.
Wow.
They're with us all, and they bring you the best food, man.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. You got to have the right bait to go fishing, man. You're from Southeast Texas. You know about fishing. So you got to have the right bait to go fishing. They bring food, man. They bring pizza. They bring gumbo, mock shoe. I mean, they're bringing all kinds of stuff. And at the end of 4 days, you could see the Holy Spirit work the room. You saw these guys change. The biggest, baddest guys in the joint on Saturday night in an ACTS retreat are crying like babies. And they don't call them ACTS retreats anymore in prison. They call them St. Colby retreats because they had to split from the ACTS group. But so I went on these retreats and I learned what the secret to life was. And the secret to life, is serving others and being humble. And my buddy Joe Tatoris, the guy that founded Jason's Deli,
that's right,
local guy, that's where I met Joe through prison ministry stuff. And he gave me the term that he calls it is servant leadership. And the first time I heard Joe talk about servant leadership, I told him, I said, Joe, I'm stealing that from you, man. That's a great term. And so that's what the secret to life was, Tyler. The secret to life is serving others and being humble. Servant leadership. Servant leadership is helping other people achieve their goals in life, helping raise other people up to a different station in life. Because when we are helping other people, we're really helping ourselves. And that's what it's all about. And I learned how to pray when I was in there, Tyler. And that's key because I had to get a conscious contact back with God, and I had to get it right that I'm here to do His will. And it's not Damon's world, it's God's world, and I get to live in it. And I'm thankful for that. So, I had to understand that praying is not about me. Praying's about, looking for ways to get out and serve. And I had to get outside of myself. So I pray for the same two things today that I learned how to pray about when I was in recovery in prison. Recovery taught me this. I say, God, put in front of me what you need me to do today for you, and let me recognize it when I see it, because I don't want to miss that. And Tyler, I don't pray for anything else, health, wealth, happiness, none of that stuff. If I need it, God will make sure I have it, as long as I'm doing His will, man, and going out and helping other people out.
Wow.
Because here's the deal, man. People get so hung up on their mistakes and their past and what they've done wrong or what they've done good. Man, your past doesn't define you. Your past wins don't define you. Your past losses don't define you. Today, man, today is a gift. Your past is your lesson. The present is a gift, and the future, that's your motivation. And like you get up every day, man, your motivation is to build the brand of Tyler Troutman. And you've got this podcast going on. It's amazing. You're doing stuff that guys your age aren't doing because you get up every day and you have a passion that drives you, man. That's your motivation.
Yeah, and there's so many parallels with your mindset and mine. I really try to audit my circle of friends and make sure that my close circle is providing value to my life.
Absolutely.
And quality. And not in a derogatory way. I kind of, in my head, just categorize people as useful or useless, not in a mean way, but, are they being a useful person in life, in society, in their career, in their relationships?
And what you're saying is not bad at all. You're not saying they're useless as human beings,
right?
But are they living up to their potential to change the world? I mean, to positively change the world. And it doesn't have to be on a grand stage. It can be as simple as their workplace they're around, their family they're around. You don't want to be around a lot of trauma because I tell people all the time in prison, and I tell people this on the outside, kids on the outside. If you show me who you hang out with, I'll tell you who you are.
It's like a mirror.
Yeah. You show me who you hang out with, I'll tell you who you are. I mean, because you're not going to hang around a bunch of knuckleheads unless you're a knucklehead.
Right.
And that's keep your circles tight. You're doing it the right way, man. You don't need a lot of people around you. People talk about, I've got all these friends, and people get clouded by social media. They get confused by it. They think that this is a real world. Social media is not a real world.
Yeah, it's a different time to be alive.
Yeah, because that's what you want people to see. People want you can put on social media. You can be anybody you want on social media, and that's why I try to use my platform the same way you try to use your platform to put positivity out there. I mean, my platform is to bring you down to earth. I'll talk about the stuff I've done wrong and the lessons I've learned along the way. So maybe somebody can use that to give them hope for the day, or let them know that they don't have to make the same mistakes I made.
Yeah, and you use it as a tool for the reach, because not everybody's going to be able to attend every single one of your talks.
Right.
But when you put it on YouTube, the whole world can hear it.
Absolutely. And then we, like you said, man, you just hit the nail on the head. We live in a different time. You know, that's good and bad. Because now you can reach people in a positive way like you never could before, but man, you can reach people in a negative way like you never do. Mark Twain, this is during the time of all we had for communication was the radio. Mm-hmm. And he said a lie can travel halfway around the world before the truth can get its shoes on.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
You know? So think about what he would say today, man. A lie can travel halfway, all the way around the world before the truth gets its shoes on.
In seconds.
Once it's out there, it's gone, man. There's nothing you can do about it. You can't bottle that up and get it back. You can't unsay what you say. And I tell people all the time, man, if you're about to send an email or something like that and you're not sure about it, man, just let it sit there.
Yeah.
Just type it out, let it sit there.
It's amazing how the term sleep on it really means if you just wait 24 hours, you're probably not angry about it again. Yeah.
You have to dig down deep to find out, to get angry again like that.
Exactly. Yeah. I would agree. And so, you're walking out of prison, you got paroled. This is just kind of humor for all the listeners. The first meal that you had before you got home was not In-N-Out.
No, man.
It was Whataburger.
Man, I'd have been dreaming about a number 2, what a size with cheese for 7 years, 3 months, and 18 days.
That's a little bit of Texas humor.
If you're in Texas listening to this, you're in the South down here, you know what a Whataburger is, man. And I mean, no one, in my opinion, makes a burger like Whataburger. I would love to get an endorsement from Whataburger just to get free food. I'd do it for the free food. The last thing I need is Whataburger, man. Good fuel in, good fuel out, right? No, I love Whataburger.
Well, I know when they opened those gates, you had some very excited people waiting for you on the other side.
Man, my mom and dad, man. And it's just, man, look, man, before you leave prison, so you're getting out of your prison clothes and you know, your family gets to bring you some clothes that you're going to wear. Because I'm leaving out of prison and I had to go to this drug treatment center on the last 6 months of prison. So it's a different facility. It's in Kyle, Texas, and it's called the In-Prison Therapeutic Community because I've got substance abuse issues. Mm-hmm. And so you're leaving the Kyle unit, and your parents get to bring you an outfit. So my parents brought me some blue jeans, and my little brother gives me all this stuff. He's about my size. So, and I got some boxer briefs I get to put. Man, I was so happy to put on boxer briefs, man. And the little things in life, you know.
Yeah.
But the jeans, I remember feeling the denim on the jeans, and it just felt so good, Tyler, because I hadn't felt jeans in almost a decade, you know.
Yeah, because all you have is it's like scrubs, right?
It's like scrubs. It's like maternity clothes.
Yeah.
And so it's like, you know, you're wearing these like scrub outfits, and so I'm playing with the buttons on my button-up jeans, and it's just, I mean, it feels so good, and it's so foreign almost, and it's so weird because I grew up wearing jeans. When you're a little boy, you grow up wearing jeans. I've worn jeans all my life, but putting on this pair of jeans is like putting them on for the first time. But being at an age when you're cognizant enough to realize what's happening.
Yeah.
So, and it's like a trick of the mind. So you whenever you walk out of prison, the sergeant walking us out, there's 4 of us leaving that day. Mm-hmm. He walks us out to the gate and he says, look, here's your last order in TDCJ. When you get on the other side of that gate, get off our property. Don't ever come back.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I got you, man. So the minute my foot steps on the other side of the gate, the ground felt different, Tyler. The sky looked bluer. The air was lighter. The grass was greener. The trees were greener. And it's a trick of the mind. I don't know any other way to describe it, but stuff goes bursting. It's like euphoric recall goes just blasting through your brain, and all these endorphins are released. And I see my parents on there in the parking lot, and I run over there to them. We start hugging and crying, and then I start shoving them in the car like a bank robbery, man.
Yeah.
I'm like, yo, let's go. We got to go. We got to get out of here. You know, they said we got to go. And my mom's like, what's going on? I was like, just get in the car. Go, I'll tell you in a little bit. So I slam the door, get in. So my dad says, hey, he's behind the wheel. My mom's in the passenger seat, the front seat. I'm in the back. My dad's like, hey, Damon, you want to go get that Whataburger? Let's go, you know? My mom's like, hang on, Bob. Don't even start that car yet. She said, I got 3 tools Damon's going to need to get through life with.
Yeah, and you're probably thinking, hurry up before they change their mind.
Mom, we got to go. We got to go. We can do this at Whataburger. She's like, no. She said, just calm down. She says, the first thing she gives me is an iPhone, man. She handed me an iPhone. And, man, when I got locked up.
What was the last phone you had? Like a flip?
It was like an LG. It was like a Sidekick, man, but it had like a keyboard on it. So when I got arrested, phones had buttons, man.
This is like alien technology.
I can't even light it up. You know, I don't even know where's the on button on an iPhone. You know, I'm looking for buttons on the side, not knowing you can just touch the screen.
Yeah.
So she says, baby, listen. She said, look, I'll show you how to work the phone. She said, they've come a long way. She's telling me all the stuff the phone can do. And so the next thing, that's the first tool. So the second tool she gives me is my driver's license. I found a way while I was in prison to renew my driver's license. The state of Texas, man, I haven't driven a golf cart in 7 years, man, but Texas like, yeah, we'll give you a driver's license. So she said, now you got a phone, you can stay in touch with the world, you can do your banking, social media, all the other stuff. She said, you got a driver's license, you can go anywhere you want to go. You know, you borrow my truck, you can afford your own car. She said, what are you missing? And it's my mom, so I knew it was something spiritual. So when I told her, I said, Mom, look, I got you beat this time. I've got the best relationship with God. He's driving the car, I'm just riding. I've got my rosary, got my Bible. Mom, what more can I need? And she was like, Damon, you always did talk too much. She said, stick out your wrist. And I stuck out my wrist, and she put this axe bracelet on my wrist. And these axe bracelets, you know, down here when we live in Southeast Texas, they have the axe community. Axe stands for Adoration, Community, Theology, and Service.
Right.
And that was the retreats that I went on in prison. And I told my mom when I was in prison that whenever I got out one day, I don't know when it's going to be, but I want to find these axe people because I want them to be my family. I want them to be my friends. And so she put this bracelet on my wrist. She said, everybody that's in Acts at home in our region wears these Acts bracelets to identify themselves with. She said, there's 1,000 Acts brothers and sisters out there waiting for you right now. She said, but I signed you up for an Acts retreat at St. Charles and Nederland. She said, in 2 months, you'll go to your first Acts retreat. She said, baby, go find your friends. And that was one of the best gifts my mother could have ever given me, man, because I got involved with that community and they helped show me about the things that, you know, you want to do good in life. They also show me about their failures in life.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because, you know, if we're going to be honest about ourselves, be very candid, man, everybody's got failures.
Sure.
You know? And a lot of people try to hide it, but I mean, just don't need to hide it. These guys were very transparent with me about their failures in life and careers and families with divorce and losing jobs and the stuff that happens in the course of a human life. But these guys shared that with me, and they gave me the ability to go back into prisons now. And, you know, Tyler, one of the coolest things that happened, one of the biggest God things is when I was in prison, I did my own legal work trying to get out, wrote my own appeal.
Wow.
And so I sent a copy of it in 2012 to Mr. Humphrey at Provost Humphrey Law Firm because, you know, I thought, hey, look, you know, Mr. Humphrey's an old family friend. He could have one of his lawyers look at it. So I wrote a note, you know, could you have one of your lawyers please look at my writ and tell me how bad I did, how bad I'm going to get beat.
Yeah.
Oh, he got back in touch with me. He told my parents, he said, tell Damon that he put together one hell of a writ for a guy that's never been to law school. When he gets out of prison, tell him to come see me. I got a job for him.
Oh, so that's amazing.
Second day I'm out of prison, I go up to Provost Humphrey Law Firm at 9 o'clock on Tuesday morning, November 17th, 2015. I got out on the 16th. And I'm there, and I still smell like prison, man. I mean, I've got this hand-me-down outfit on, the best people have donated clothes and all kinds of stuff to me. Not everything fits right. And a little prison haircut, and I walk into Provost Humphrey Law Firm, and they give me a job.
Wow.
Right? I mean, just huge door opening up right there. And
I truly believe that gainful employment is the first thing you got to do.
One of the biggest obstacles to a successful reentry is job readiness and employment, because you got to have a job to be a part of normal society. Because if you don't have a job, what are you going to do, Tom?
Yeah, you're going to end up back on the streets.
Yeah, if you don't have a job and you have a family, I mean, what are the lengths you would go to feed your kids?
Yeah.
You know, would you steal? Would you? I mean, so unfortunately, people have to make these choices. And you know, I'm not being an advocate for people committing crimes to feed their family. I'm not doing that at all.
Sure. Yeah.
But I'm saying that what you said, having a job, is so important. And so immediately I've got that checked off my list. Not only a job, but a job at one of the most prestigious law firms in Texas, man.
That's right.
And a place that gives me instant validity. You know, this is a place that people will say, well, if they're okay with him, I guess I can be okay with him. You know, and so, I've had a lot of big things happen for me. And, you know, one of them was getting in touch with Judge Brad Burnett and then Marcelo Malfino in the DA's office. And they would take me around to schools locally and let me talk to kids and share my story. And it just caught on and started snowballing. And eventually it's college football programs. And eventually, I get in front of Dabo Sweeney at the Bear Bryant Coaching Awards, and I meet Dabo, and I'm like, hey, Dabo, I want to come talk to your team. And I give him the elevator pitch of my life, and I hand him a business card that I made up just for the event that night. You know, these little, goofy little looking businest cards. Yeah. He said, you know what, I'll have you come talk to my team. And he did. Wow. He let me come talk to the Clemson. They just won the national championship. Yeah. And so I'm in the room in August 1st, 2017. I speak to his team. And when it's over, my presentation's over. And by now, my presentation's gotten better and better. You know, I have a PowerPoint that goes on behind me. And, you know, and I'm sharing all the stuff that we talked about on the podcast, the coffee bean, the secret to life, all these other things are in my presentation. So the first thing Dabo says is, he said, Damon, I'm stealing all your stuff. He said, I love it, man. I'm stealing everything. The coffee bean's mine. I said, take it, man. Run with it, Dabo. Yeah. And so he said, "Have you been to Alabama yet?" I said, "Man, I haven't." I said, I said at some point they said they'll get me in, but they're never going to let me.
Yeah,
in.
because you can't just call up Nick Saban and say,
No,
"Hey,
you
can I
can't.
go?" No.
And everybody wants to get into Alabama, man. They're the whale. They're the biggest thing on
They probably have motivational speakers booked out.
Man, people are dying to get in there, man. And so I told him, I said, "They'll never let me in." He said, "We'll see about that." He said, "I just text Nick Saban, man." I told him, "I've never seen my guys respond to anybody the way they respond to Damon West." He said, "It's the best presentation I've ever seen."
I believe it, yeah.
He said, "Damon, let me help you out. Let me give you a quote or something." I said, "Great, Dad, well, give me a quote. I'll call my website guy, put it on the website." He goes, "Pull out your phone." And Dabo let me record a video testimonial of him, 46 seconds that changed my life. I mean, just, had the best speaker ever come in at Clemson. It's on my Twitter feed. It's the one that's pinned to my Twitter feed. And Dabo Swinney has done more for me than any college football coach. And there's a football ops guy named Randy Ross. He's now at Arkansas. And the director of football operations are the guys that bring in the motivational speakers. And Randy took an interest in me early on, too. So between Randy Ross and Dabo Swinney, they have propelled me on the college football circuit further than anybody else ever has.
Yeah, I've seen you at countless D1 schools.
And all the biggest schools in the country.
Yeah, on a first-name basis with the coach.
I get to talk to these coaches every time when I'm in there in their office, and all these coaches want to know, what can you do to enrich my players? Because what they do at these colleges is they have speakers come in, and character building exercises. Because they don't just have these guys for 4 years to see what kind of athletes they can be. They get them for 4 years to turn them into men, better people, better servant leaders, better future husbands and fathers one day. That's where a guy like me comes in.
And there's so many temptations in college life.
And these guys are on a different level, man. When you're playing football for University of Alabama or Miami or Florida State or Oregon, you're in a bubble, man. You're in a different world. People put you on a pedestal at the age of 18, 19 years old. Yeah. There's so much pressure on you, and there's so many more things to get into.
Right. You look at the talent level of like Johnny Manziel, but then you look at his friends that he hangs out with.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like, dude, yes, it's show me who you hang out with, tell you who you are.
Yeah, and so I think these athletes are really fortunate to have you come in and catch them before they make these mistakes instead of after.
And there was a school that had a player, Georgia. I can talk about it now because we had a basically a confidentiality agreement.
Right.
And so I'd gone to speak at Georgia. This is in 2017. And whenever I got done, 17. So whenever I got done, I came back to Texas, and a couple of days later, I get a phone call from one of the Georgia football coaches and say, "Hey, look, we just had a player get arrested for possession of marijuana. Will you come speak to him? Will you speak to him on the phone?" And so I do. I said, "Yeah, sure." His name is Natrez Patrick. Natrez from inner city Atlanta. He's a linebacker there. And so we talk. Black kid from inner city Atlanta, get caught for possession of marijuana. He's a good kid, though, Tyler. Really good kid. And so I call the coach back. I'm like, "Look, man, this is a good kid. You're going to lose him if you suspend him. What are you going to do?" He said, "We have to suspend him for 4 games." I said, "Well, give him to me, man. I'm going into a Texas security prison next weekend, doing a bunch of presentations inside the prison. Give him to me. Ship him down to Texas for a weekend. Let me have him. I want him." They're like, "Okay, let me check and see." So Kirby Smart signed off on it. The athletic director at Georgia signed off on it, and the kid's mom signed off on it. They sent he and a graduate assistant coach from Georgia on a plane. I picked him up at the airport, drove him into a Texas maximum security prison. And these guys inside the prison, I let them know who this guy was and what he had done and as he suspended. And at the end of every presentation, I said, "Hey, y'all go tell Natrez about his decisions in life." And all these guys would swarm around this young college football player. And they're like, "Dude, what are you thinking, man? You're going to end up here just like us." And I told Natrez, I said, "Natrez, after every presentation, I'm going to ask for everybody in the room to put their hands up if their first charge in the criminal justice system was a marijuana case."
Wow.
And I said, "I want you to pay attention to how many hands go up in the room. And the other thing I want you to pay attention for is how many of those people are black. How many of those people look like you in there?"
Yeah.
And I mean, 75% of the room would go up on the marijuana charge question. And 80% of those hands were black. And so it opened his eyes to something. He was freaked out by this. And so that's just another one of those things, to being somewhere in life where God needs you to be and to answer the call.
I mean, you saved his life, just like many others saved your life.
Yeah, and maybe, so we'll see what Natrez does in life. But I mean, I know that he got to see something he never would have got to see otherwise. And I got, whenever I find ways to help other people out, man, I feel like I'm useful. The lady that interviewed me for parole on the prison unit, she said, she's looking at my file. She's like, "I don't see a lot of Damon West come through here. I'm going to be honest with you." She said, "Look, I want to ask you a question." She said, "If you could be remembered for being anything in this life, give it to me in just one word, go." And I fired back, immediately. I said, useful.
Yeah,
I said,
I love that.
Yeah, I just want to be useful. I said, I can be useful in here, or I can be useful out there. I said, but I've got a story to tell. I've got this vision of what I can do out there, but I need to get out to do it. So whenever y'all decide to let me out, just know that I want to be useful.
Yeah.
And they did, man.
Well, man, one last story I got to tell you that I loved, just because I like fitness, was you were pretty fresh out of prison and you signed up for a 5K run.
The firm, the Provost Humphrey buys a lot of spots. They're like, hey, Damon, you're a former athlete. Do you like to run? I was like, man, I run all the time. I used to run in prison a lot.
Yeah, and prison for you, it's almost like time travel because I don't know if you've ever seen Captain America, but he lived in like the 1940s and was frozen and then pops up again in current time, and he's not up to date on pop culture or technology or anything. So I guess you started out, you had a playlist, right, for the 5K.
So I have a playlist in my phone, this iPhone that I'm, this is February 27th, 2016. Been out of prison 3 months. And so, I'm fumbling around and I'm getting ready to go up on the start line. There's 950 people or 900 people in this race. It's at Lamar University. It's this 5K. It's called the Spindletop 5K.
It's the
Gusher.
Yeah, with the marathon and it's a Boston qualifier at that time, I think. And so there's tons of people there.
Yeah. So there's a lot of, and I think the only way, I'll tell you about the 5K story, but so I get up to the line and so I'm trying to get my playlist that I've had figured out. I've got it built up for enough songs for 20 minutes. I figured, man, I'll need 20 minutes to get to this race. So I've planned everything out. I've got every song, the way it's going to play in the line to keep me going.
Which is insanely fast, by the way.
Dude. But I mean, it's all I've done. I've been doing a lot of running in prison. And I don't run that kind of time now. after school's over, after grad, it's always at after, right? But anyway, so
the gun goes off.
Before the gun goes off, I'm trying to get this playlist going, and I erase the whole thing. I don't even know how I did it, man. So I have it in the cloud, so it says it's going to retrieve it from the cloud.
And you're like, what is the cloud?
I'm like, what is the cloud? And this guy's about to fire a gun to let us go. So I just put my phone down and put it in my pocket. I have my headphones on. They're not even cued into anything, so I hear everything going on around me. And I get out of there, man. I jump out of the box and go. And 19 minutes and 29 seconds later, I'm looking back behind me as I go through the finish line, and the nearest guy is a minute or so behind me. I smoked the entire field.
I run 5Ks, and brother, that is moving.
Man, look, I think the only reason why I won this, Tyler, is because so many other people that are good runners were running the marathon and the half marathon. I really do.
I mean, you can sign up for 5Ks all day, and that's a very good time. So that just kind of impressed me that you're just out there, non-traditional, no music, and you didn't even know what was going on.
Just stumbled out
you
there,
just
man.
You just kind of ran. I think you ran away from the crowd.
Yeah,
you were uncomfortable.
You're used to not being around a bunch of crowds. You don't want anybody near you, man. So but it was neat, man. It was just one of those deals where, I'm 40 years old at the time, and just jump out there and you do it. And I look, man, when I got out there and all that crowd around me, I did not feel comfortable at all. There's 900 something people. I don't want that many people around me at that point in my life.
Right. Yeah.
But it was good, man. God has opened a lot of doors for me, Tyler, and it is incumbent upon me to go out and share that with as many people as possible.
Yeah, and I'm sitting in front of you today. I can tell that you kept the promise to your mom. There's no gang tattoos or anything, and. You look like one of my coworkers in technology sales. You cleaned up real nice. You're looking great, man. And I want to show everybody on camera the book real quick. So Damon West, the Change Agent. I got my copy off of Amazon. That's probably the easiest way to get it.
Yeah, Amazon.
I think they shipped mine in a day. I mean, I had it on my doorstep the very next day.
Yeah, so it's Amazon. It's $17. Here's the deal. I would ask you: buy a book, you read it. Write a review when you get done, if you can, please. Good or bad, whatever you want to write. But the reviews help. Yeah,
definitely review it. Myself, I listen to a ton of audiobooks. I never read books. And I had to read this one, and man, I could not put it down.
Awesome.
I read it in just a few days because it was nonstop, and I was...
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Tyler, man, I'm telling you, we were talking about this a while ago because when this whole process of writing this book, every step, I've got a literary agent. We're trying to sell it to a publisher. And I keep waiting for someone to say, well, look, man, your writing's okay, but we're going to need to bring in a ghostwriter. I've never written a book before. But, man, every step of the way, they're like, dude, your writing has voice. You've got this.
And I was on edge. Like I got the chills.
It's so wild to hear that. It's so wild.
And the reason I listen instead of read is because it calms me down. I fall asleep. That didn't happen when you were. I was like stressed out. I was like, what's going to happen next? And usually like most people, you're reading at night before you go to bed. I couldn't sleep. I just kept on reading.
That's what people keep telling me. I'm like, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. So man, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and all those suspenseful moments made me think that it's got to be a movie one day. There's so if Steven Spielberg's out there listening, man, just maybe they'll cast you instead of Bradley Cooper.
Oh man, that would be
maybe
something.
you could play yourself.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see about the movie thing. That's my feet are on the ground, brother.
Yeah. Well, you've got so many things going for you. You probably don't need it, but if there's anything I can do for you in the future, anything else in the community that can help you out, spread the message. I know this podcast is going to go far and wide. Like I said, I waited for a long time to record this one and make it. It was an episode that was really special to me. And thank you for coming on, man.
Well, hey, look, Tyler, I'd love to come back. I got a second book coming out in June 12th. The second book come out called The Coffee Bean. And it's with a guy named John Gordon. John Gordon's a huge motivational speaker. I would encourage everybody to check out John Gordon, too. He writes books. He sold millions of books. And he called me up last summer. And he said, hey, listen, Damon, I got your number from Dabo Sweeney. I was like, John, Dabo Sweeney? He goes, yeah, you can't quit talking about you in that coffee bean message, man. He said, look, here's the deal, Damon. The next book I write, I want to call it The Coffee Bean. I want you to write it with me. We'll split everything 50-50. How's that sound? Mm-hmm. I was blown away. So John Gordon and I have a book coming out June 12th called The Coffee Bean. And it's the story of the coffee bean.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah, so it'll be out June 12th. So when the next book comes out, you ever have a slot, let me know. I'll come back on the show.
Yeah, we definitely want to talk about that.
I would love to.
Well, tell everybody where they can find you out there on social media.
Yeah, social media. I'm Twitter and Instagram at Damon West 7, DAMON WEST 7. And on social media, let's see, Facebook is Damon Joseph West. Look, I'm at the friend limit on this deal, so I've got to figure out what to do next. I guess make a fan page.
Yeah, professional page.
Page, whatever they call it.
Yeah.
I can't accept more friend requests, but you can follow me. You don't have to be friends with somebody to follow.
Sure, yeah.
And my page is public, so it doesn't matter. You don't have to be my friend anyway.
Okay, great, yeah. And I can tell everybody from this morning, like, hey, just Google Damon West and you'll find these pages. They pop right up. It's positive vibes only.
Absolutely.
DamonWest.org.
DamonWest.org, and that you'll find my email address. And so let me know if I can come speak to your kids.
Search Damon on YouTube for sure. I'm a visual guy. I like to watch videos. Those videos are really powerful, and you can maybe see him throw a 50-yard pass.
Yeah,
too.
50-yard challenge. Every time I go to school.
I don't think I can throw 50 yards, but I might be able to catch one.
Yeah,
on the
we'll make that happen on the podcast one day.
Yeah, for sure.
Good deal. Well, hey, Tyler, thanks for having me, man. I'm honored, man.
Oh, yeah. You're welcome back anytime. Thanks.
I'll come back.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Wow. What an amazing story about overcoming obstacles, mental toughness, and changing your fate. I've got some exciting episodes lined up for y'all, so be sure to find me on social media. Reach out, give me some feedback, and let me know what you think. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more platforms in the future. I hope you have a good rest of your week. Thank you for listening to the Tyler Knows Everything podcast, where the nose is crossed out because I always want to learn more.